Hello, everyone. This is Tom Bluebow from the author community. I have with me today Blue Balcita. She is a 16-year-old author. And when I say author, I mean she is published. Um, she has experienced things that no 16-year-old should have experienced. I think you're going to enjoy, and I think you're going to learn a lot. So how are you, Blue?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Is Blue your real name?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Where did the name come from? Do you know?
Well, when my mother was a little girl, she always wanted to have a daughter who was different. So she decided to name me Blue to make me different from other people.
Wow. Well, my dad went by the name Blue, but it was BLU. And I'm
Oh,
trying to get people to call me Blue all my life, and they won't do it. So it's kind of fascinating. So what made you start writing?
I'd have to say it was my life experiences. When I was 13, I was homeless in South Lake Tahoe, and I met a lot of people who had a lot of interesting stories, and they've walked so many different kinds of lives that inside of me, I wanted to get it out there to tell people and to show people that underneath the dirt, grime, booze, and banality of the veins of society lays a deeply feeling person with a story to tell.
So what is your biggest inspiration when you write?
I'd have to say it is my past in part, but it also have to be my students who they get so set back because they're dyslexic students. And so I wanted to, push forward with getting more and more success to show them that anything is possible and that it doesn't matter what age you are or what disabilities you have. You can even be successful with anything.
That's a good word. So who has helped you most in your writing career?
I'd have to say that it would be a bookstore in Susanville, David and Margie Teeter. They've offered me so many book signings and so many opportunities to talk about my book that I don't even know where I would be in my career if it wasn't for them.
Okay, that brings me to a question. How did you publish your first book?
I did it through createspace.com, which is an indie publishing kind of publishing company. And it went so successful. Within 4 days, it went out of print and it topped the Amazon Poetry by Women bestseller list.
Wow. Do you know how that happened?
Well, I guess people just kept buying and buying them because they enjoyed the content of my books. And also, too, I'd have to say it's because I'm 16 years old and have an interesting story that my books kind of sold.
Yeah, but even with that, when you go on Amazon, you're on there with 12 to 13 million other books.
Right.
So how did you find yours?
Well, I saw this email from another author, and it was how he Facebook marketed to get himself so successful that he sold millions of books that I decided I'd take a venture at it, and I invested my money into Facebook ads for my books, and that was a whole nother avenue. And then I started hitting the ground running towards it, and I started sending my books everywhere imaginable, and it got attention from USA Today's book editor, and she told me it was very well received. And I just have worked so hard to be able to get that message of 10 poems for the hungry out.
10 poems to the hungry.
10 poems for the hungry.
For the hungry.
Yes.
Okay. And have you shared that with any of the hungry?
I have actually. I've donated all profits from the royalty profits from 10 Poems for the Hungry to the Tahoe Warm Room, which is where I was homeless, and I wish they would have been around back then. And so I'm trying to keep them in business today for the people that had to be homeless in South Lake Tahoe.
Wow. And now you've written how many books?
I've written 10 books,
10
and
books.
they're all from different kinds of genre. I only really have one fiction book called Weeping Willow, but my newest release is called Sing Me a Whiskey Lullaby, which is about my experiences of having to live homeless in South Lake Tahoe, have a mother who went a little crazy thinking that the Russian mafia was constantly after her, and having to live in a box for a while behind a Taco Bell.
I can't imagine that. How did you feel? What were your emotions like during that time?
Well, at first I was really frightened of the way that my mother was going. She wasn't always so cruel-hearted and mean. She was once really sweet to me and really a mother to me, but it's just, first it was fear when she taught me how to shoot and fight because we were running from the Russian mafia. But then it started getting repetitive and it started to become more about survival to me. And then when I started meeting these other people, and a person even who was homeless, he'd served his country, but all he wanted people to do was smile at him, that was so empowering to me that it started to become more about kindness, more about feeling happy in my ordinary madness.
Now, I can't help but think, as a teenager in that kind of a world, did you feel safe at all in any area?
No, I didn't. I more had to, pull myself up by my bootstraps and take care of it myself. But I'm very glad that I went through that experience because it caused me to kind of forsake my teenagerisms and be really focused and serious about my education and goals, because I have a lot of things I want to do in my life.
Mm-hmm. I bet you're having a hard time finding mature people because you're mature.
Yeah.
Okay. How has your life and ideology impacted your writing?
I pour myself into my writing. I pour my past. I pour my students, the love that my students have for me, into everything that I do in my writing. I'm a firm believer that people need to help one another and to take care of one another in this world to be able for all of us to survive as a society. So I put all of my big beliefs into my writing to be able to make my own voice heard, in the hopes that impacting just one person would make a domino effect to impacting a whole social change.
I keep thinking about this one book, 10 Poems for the Hungry, and selling out and being #1 on Amazon. So how did you let people know you were coming out with your fiction or whatever?
I did the same thing. I invested into Facebook ads. I sent it to all different sorts of publishers and media news outlets. And I just started keep pushing forward. Even though it didn't get much of a response at first from people, I kept going and going until I made people look at the book, and it did fairly well, and it has been doing very well, but not as good as my first one.
So are all of them selling?
All of them are, yes.
Wow. And what's next?
Well, I think I've stopped at 10 books, and my next mission is to go off and try and pursue my education, do well in college, and then hopefully start hitting the ground towards helping more people and making a little bit of influence in my little corner of the world.
Okay, and how's a college education going to help you do that?
Well, I plan to pursue a career in the FBI, so I'm going to be learning about political science, learn how our government works and different complex systems to be able to better myself, but in turn better my community so I can better serve and help other people.
Have you thought about speaking publicly?
I have, but I haven't really been offered to do any public speaking.
I would think that the high schools in your area would love to have you come in and talk to their students. Um,
Well,
yeah,
I would definitely have to check into that.
yeah, I would, maybe start with the PTA or the superintendent's office or somewhere. If you know a teacher or know somebody who knows somebody who's a teacher,
Yeah.
I'm sure you could get that door open. What advice would you give to young writers?
Read. Never stop reading, because reading makes you the best kind of writer. I actually ran across a quote a little while ago by Rene Descartes, who was a 15th century French philosopher, I think, that said the reading of all good books is like conversation with the noblest minds of the past century. And when you read, you will be able to better yourself to become a better writer.
Excellent. Do you ever have writer's block?
I do. I'm one of the most people you'll ever meet who sits in front of a computer and tries to write for the longest of times. And I get over my writer's block by actually reading Charles Bukowski, who was a poet. And he has always kind of inspired me to get past my writer's block, because I still have a lot of things I wanted to say to get out there.
Got to prime the pump sometimes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking down through some questions I have here. So is your long-term career objective to be a writer?
No, it's more to be in the FBI so that I could help be a voice for people who can't speak for themselves.
Okay. But you wouldn't be opposed to continuing writing?
I would be opposed to writing fiction, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting some kind of message out there to people.
So what are your immediate plans? What's next on the drawing board? I know you're going to school, but what else?
I'd have to say it'd be to join the Peace Corps and to open my own nonprofit organization to be able to help people who were around my similar age and going through the same things I was, but not being able to have the same success I have. So I want to be able to help people my age be able to reach that same conclusion I did.
Blue, I'll tell you, you're very much an inspiration to me, and I'm sure you will be to everybody who watches this. If you were to give one piece of advice to a 13-year-old girl, not homeless necessarily, but just in general, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that the world is fast-paced, black, but you need to have hope, because hope will get you through anything. And you need to be able to learn to love the people who will put you down, who will tell you you won't be able to accomplish anything because you're a girl, and go for it. Go full force into anything you want to do.
That's excellent. It's been my pleasure interviewing you. And I hope
Thank you.
well, and I hope you accomplish everything that you've ever dreamed.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there's more things that will grab you that you hadn't even thought of yet.
Most likely.
Okay, so I'm going to end this recording. Everybody just remember the name Blue Balcita and go look for her books on Amazon and see what this girl is all about.